The United States ranks lower than Zimbabwe on gender equality. I find these surveys hilarious. You know, there was another survey done a while ago. I could be wrong about this. You got to fact check me. It was a while ago, claiming that there was more gender equality in Syria than in the United States. There is so much wrong with that assessment. And this one right here is based on the World Economic Forum. They're looking at data from 153 countries, and they have this criteria. I'll go through it. And they're like, based on these factors, we think gender equality is better in Zimbabwe. Now, listen, I got no beef with Zimbabwe. I don't know a whole lot about Zimbabwe, but I do know they got a lot of problems, and you might not want to be a young virginal child in a country like Zimbabwe or South Africa. Not like, I know that these stories come out and make it seem like the world is ending, and they're like, it's happening all the time, nonstop. Look, I know people from South Africa, and a lot of people talk about how bad it is, and they tell me they don't see it. They're like, I go to work every day, I live and work, and we don't see these problems. But that doesn't mean the problems aren't more likely to occur there than other places. So I interviewed a couple from South Africa, and they said something to me like, we've only been carjacked like 5 times, And I was like, wait, what? That's crazy. I've never been carjacked. But like for them, so I think you see these things, and they use these American-centric ideas of what gender equality should be and ignore what life is really like in some of these countries. ABC News has the story. And let me just make the point, right? Dude, come on. America is awesome. Like, life is so comfortable here. But you get all these outraged social justice types acting like the sky is falling, and then they run these reports and they're like, it's actually better in Zimbabwe. I'll tell you what. Anybody who wants to move to Zimbabwe, you give me a call, okay? I'm kidding. Nobody, you don't have my number. You hit me up. And by all means, if you really want to live there because it's better, just let me know. I'll see what I can do to help you out. I'm kidding, by the way. I know there's going to be a ton of like lefties being like, Tim's going to fund a trip to Zimbabwe. I'm joking, okay? But no, I'm serious. If you want to take this stuff seriously, by all means, go to Zimbabwe. Oh, is there a reason you don't want to go there? Oh, so here's the thing. I'll make this point too. Is Zimbabwe better on gender equality? By their metrics, maybe. And I can actually back up some of their points. The issue is, would you rather be a woman in the United States or a man in Zimbabwe? The reality is, while Zimbabwe probably has really beautiful places and really nice culture, it is substantially poorer than the U.S. The U.S. We're like, the U.S. is super wealthy, wealthiest country in the world, I think, for the most part. And I would rather be a homeless person in the United States than a average, like, working class person in like any other country. Like, let's be honest. I mean, there's a lot of European countries I'd be totally fine with. I just mean, how many countries in the world are comfortable for the lower class? Poor people in the United States, they got refrigerators and air conditioning. Yeah, poor people in Brazil, they live in shanty towns that fall down when it rains, and they can't flush their toilets. Let's read a little bit. Look at this data. And I'm actually going to surprise you, because in a lot of ways, Zimbabwe actually is, or at least in one way, one of their metrics, it is kind of better than the U.S., but, you're going to love this. A new report published Tuesday by the World Economic Forum ranks 153 countries on gender equality. The U.S., number 53, oh heavens. Nordic nations led the way, with Iceland topping the list. Excuse me. Norway, Finland, and Sweden were close behind. They say, don't change women, change the world. Read more in the Global Gender Gap Report. Iceland is the best place to be a woman. I actually agree with that. Iceland is awesome. Seriously. It's expensive because of like the nature of what Iceland is. They got cheap electricity though. I went and visited there a couple years ago. Awesome, beautiful place. And what I was told, could be wrong because it's just what the locals told me, is that before the advent of geothermal energy, it was an extremely poor place to live. People were just, it was awful. Because everything was like coal mining and, importing fuels and food was ridiculously expensive. Then geothermal energy happened. And all of a sudden, they had this massive abundance because of all the vents and the hot springs and the lava and all that stuff. All of a sudden now, electricity was like super cheap for everybody. And this meant they had a lot more time freed up to do other things and create a bustling tourism industry and start bringing more money into the country. Iceland is awesome. And man or woman, it's a beautiful place, a lot of fun. Not a big fan of the The sunrise and the sunset times, you know, like being bright out at midnight is kind of rough. But they say this: Nicaragua came in 5th. Really? Nicaragua came in 5th. How is it so many Nicaraguans are trying to come to the United States when the United States is worse on gender equality? No, let's be real, okay? Just because gender equality is bad in the US doesn't mean it's not better here. And that's the big point. You see stories like this, and I assure you, you're gonna get these social justice feminist types being like, look, it's worse here than in Rwanda. No. Let's put it this way. If a woman is on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like extremely wealthy, 1 being extremely poor. If you have a man in the United States on average at a 6, they're just above average, and a woman at a 4, that's gender inequality. But what if like in Zimbabwe, the men were at a 2 and the women were at a 2? Yeah, everyone's worse off. So it's an interesting way to frame the debate in that just because men are doing better, it creates the perception that women are doing worse. No, women in the United States are doing better. I mean, come on, man. All of the military-industrial complex companies, Boeing, Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, they're run by women. Man, how awesome is that? So sure, maybe in Sweden, a woman is more likely to be a mid-level manager alongside a guy. But in the United States, a woman is more likely to be blowing up kids in the Middle East. How about that? Yeah. How many Boyer, warmonger, missile merchants do you actually? Sweden has a lot. Sweden exports a ton of weapons. Anyway, you get the point. In the United States, equality may be not as great, but at least you get to run the company that builds the bombs to blow up the kids all the establishment people like, right? I'm kidding, by the way, but yeah, what's up with the establishment? Like, at least you've got people on the progressive left who are anti-war. But it seems like they often align themselves with the Democrats just because they hate Trump. Anyway, let's jump from here. It's funny. Let's take a look at the report here. The global top 10. Look at I love that Sweden is in 4th place, and I'm going to show you why. Rwanda in 9th. Their criteria seems so dumb. Here's the list of countries, and sure enough, over at 53 is the United States, Luxembourg, Bangladesh, Ecuador, Zimbabwe, Panama. A bunch of countries no one from the U.S. would want to live in are ranked higher than the U.S. Now, you got a lot of countries that tons of people would want to live in. You got Netherlands, you got, Belgium. Mexico is ranked higher than the U.S., yet we don't see people from the U.S. flooding into Mexico. So I think I made my point about how, it's a lot better here. Just because men tend to work higher level jobs doesn't mean women have it worse. In fact, I'd say if we were going to do, which country is the best to live in, the U.S. would be in the top 5 for women. If it was what is the best place to live for women, U.S. would be top 5. Zimbabwe would be in the bottom ranking. And I'm going to show you why. But first, let's look at this criteria. They say it's the health and survival sub-index. That's a huge portion of how they determine this, right? Educational attainment sub-index, very high. Economic participation is only 58%, and political empowerment sub-index is 25%. So the percentage of gender gap closed percentage of the gender gap closed to date 2020. So my understanding, I could be wrong. Let me explain it. The overall gender gap performance is a synthesis of performances across 4 dimensions composing the index: economic participation, education, yada, yada, yada. Overall, the year's positive results have been driven mainly by a progress on the political empowerment sub-index, as well as by marginal improvements on the health and survival and educational attainment sub-indexes. Okay, they say health and survival is a huge factor in gender equality. Let's play a game. Let's play a game, shall we? In the United States, according to Noema, that's the website. United States of America, the rate of women intercourse without valid consent, I'll say it that way, 38.6 per 100,000. That's pretty bad. And that's based on 2015 stats. Now, I know some people might want to dispute this. They might say that's unfair because of the rules. Why is that number so high? Is it high? I don't know. Let me tell you something. I don't care. The data is the data. Period. It's intercourse without valid consent. Period. The United States is ranked 53 in the world, health and survival. And Sweden is ranked number 4. Great. Women, you have better opportunities and more gender equality over in Sweden. Why don't you go there and just about double your chances of being forced into intercourse without valid consent? Okay, I'm not seriously advocating something like this, but look at this rate of change. From 2014, the change went up. It's gone down in 2015. It's gone down 12%. Man, could you imagine it was higher than that? Sweden has some of the highest rates of non-valid consent. I apologize. This is YouTube, man. You know, they're going to shut me down if I say the R word. But you get it. Women are forced to do things they don't want in Sweden more than the US. Let's play a funny game, though. Let's play a funny game. Zimbabwe was ranked higher than the United States, and it turns out it actually looks better. But this data only goes back to 2008, and they were seeing a dramatic decline in the abuse of women. The rate is 23.6 per 100,000. So you know what? I'll tell you what. You want gender equality, go move to Zimbabwe. Otherwise, you start to realize, for one, the data is not particularly relevant. You know, what does it really mean that Zimbabwe, the US, and Sweden have varying numbers? Well, it's because of cultural differences. Can women report? In the US, they're being encouraged to. The number goes up. In Sweden, they say they made it a broader law, so the number goes up. In Zimbabwe, it's probably the inverse. It's probably dangerous to speak out against, say, I don't know, the army that is doing it. You see the point? We also, you know what? I do have some other sources. I can't show you them. I really can't. This is YouTube. I'm sorry. I can't do it. Let me just tell you. There is this idea that if you have a disease, you can cure it by abusing a child. And that happens in Zimbabwe and South Africa. So come on, let's not play games. This argument, this data they present about gender parity literally means nothing. It means nothing, but I assure you it will be weaponized by people for political ends in the United States to say we're not doing good enough if Zimbabwe is doing better. They're not doing better. Their army is abusing women. Look, I got the article, man, from The Guardian from January of this year. Women in Zimbabwe demand action over alleged army. I'm not going to say that word. YouTube's going to shut me down, but you get it. You get it. So, I know these things happen in the U.S. too. I'm not saying they don't. You got bad people in the army. You got bad people everywhere. But come on, let's be real. The GDP in this country is high relative to everywhere else. And I'll tell you what, man, I have been to these countries. I have seen real danger. I have seen real abuse. And I will tell you this. Actually, I'll put it this way. Brazil is down here at 92, all right? Way below the United States. It's a story I told you before. See, I went to Brazil several times. I love Brazil. Brazil's awesome. I went to one of the favelas, one of the biggest favelas in the world. Complexo do Alemão, I think is how you say it. Maybe I'm saying it wrong. It's a complex of all these different favelas on hills. We were interviewing someone. There's a mother, little, maybe in her 50s. And she asked why the rich people in the United States are protesting. And my response was like, what do you mean? This was back in like 2013 or so. And she said, I think it was 2013. She said, through the translation, the Occupy Wall Street protests. And I said, oh no, that's actually, Occupy Wall Street is like young people and, the lower middle class complaining about wealth inequality. And through translator, she laughs and says, all Americans are rich. From her point of view, we are a country of wealthy individuals complaining. We're sitting to the world, we are the ivory tower. And think about it. They see the wealth inequality protests. Their GDP is like $8,000 a year. Ours is like 50 something. And they're like, these people make 7 times the amount of money I make in a year. And they're complaining they want more? That's crazy. It's the same perspective. Poor people in the United States are like, these billionaires, these millionaires, these rich people make all this money and they're complaining they want more. No matter where you are, people look up. So it's funny when I see that Namibia ranks higher in gender equality. Let's break down what this really means. Guess what? If you're a woman in Zimbabwe or a man in Zimbabwe, you're going to make $1 an hour. Congratulations. Gender equality. You're both getting paid the same rate. If you're a woman in the US, you're going to make $35,000 to $40,000 a year. And a guy is going to make $40,000 to $45,000 a year. Make your choice. You know what I mean? Like you want your $25, $30 an hour? It's 5 percentage points lower than the dudes. Well, we got to figure that one out. I think so. I think that's fair. I don't think we need to look to other countries and be like, well, it's better here, so we should ignore problems. But let's be honest. These polls come out, and this whole thing is pointless. It is nothing. You can't compare country to country. This is what drives me insane. If you want to talk about the problems the U.S. has and say something like men on average for the same work get 3 to 5% more pay, which is the number, maybe as high as 7 from some accounts. They believe it's mostly due to assertiveness and women not asking, women not negotiating, if that's the case. Maybe not. I don't know. The point is, How about we actually tackle that real number? Well, you can't. You know why? Because political individuals with agendas, they want to claim it's 30% or some fake number. All right, you want to talk about, apples to oranges, all jobs to all jobs? Well, there's less women working as petroleum engineers than men. So men across the board, regardless for hours worked or job type, will make more money. If we actually want to talk about how we can get men and women paid the same, you got so much to go through. Let me tell you something. Millennial women, the data shows they actually make more than millennial men. Boomer women make less than boomer men. It's a cultural issue. And I assure you, on the path we are on, the pendulum is swinging too far. Wealth inequality is going to be really, really bad. It's going to invert miserably. Men aren't going to college, okay? Women are dominating medical fields, the media fields. Yeah, men aren't working. They're going to be making less money. Now, maybe not, because these women a lot of them are in debt. College, I believe women now have the most college tuition debt. That's because they're more likely to go to college. But I'll tell you what, man, you can make more money as a plumber than you can as someone who's got a degree in feminist dance studies. I know I'm being a dick, but if you go to the humanities and you get a degree in like art history, don't be surprised if you can't get a job. And the dude who learned how to fix toilets and repair people's homes has a good job. I'll tell you what, man, if there were no feminist studies, gender studies, or humanities studies, professors or degree holders, the world would get along just fine. I'll tell you what, though, you run out of plumbers, you're in trouble. That poop's going to back up. There's going to be diseases. People are going to be angry and uncomfortable, and the demand will skyrocket. All of a sudden, you're going to find plumbers making hundreds of dollars an hour. Could you imagine what's going to happen? There's already a decline in trades. You know what I mean? So you've got all these people going to college trying to be this expert thought leader in whatever field. And I mean that. How many people actually go to STEM relative to all the other fields? No, they want to be philosophy professors or some nonsense. Not everybody. There's enough of them though. What are you going to do with that? Great, you're smart. You read a book. Congratulations. What are you going to do? Who's going to fix your car? The reality is value comes from the labor you do. So anyway, let's back up. Let's get back to the point, and I'll wrap this up. I don't care if Sweden ranks higher than the US when Sweden has like 50% more assaults on women. All right? You want to talk about equality? How does that not factor in? Oh, I'm sorry. It's because more women work in certain jobs. So what? Are you safe? Well, you're less likely to be in Sweden. Smaller country, too. You could be you got to recognize in the US, this number is inflated in urban areas relative to the middle of nowhere. You live in, and Sweden has middle of nowhere areas, but it's smaller, less people. That's crazy to me. But you know what? At the end of the day, they have different laws, different, they talk about things in different ways. They work in different ways. It's fine. It's insane that people are trying to compare two countries and act like with gender equality, Zimbabwe is better. And it'll be a talking point. So I'll tell you what, I concede. You're right, Zimbabwe is better. The next time someone says the US is worse than Zimbabwe in gender equality, I will say, I will tell you what. You let me know when you want to go live there, and we'll work something out. We will work it out if you want to go live in Zimbabwe. I don't mean any disrespect to Zimbabwe, by no means. I'm sure they've got a beautiful culture, and I'm sure they've got, great food, and there's really nice places. People often look to a lot of countries that aren't the United States or Europe, and they assume it's going to be, horrifying and dangerous. Not the case, man. Morocco was amazing. Morocco's dangerous, but the places where people hang out are typically nice and safe. A lot of the dangerous stuff you hear about with these tourists going and losing their lives because they're going off in the middle of nowhere into dangerous places. But that could be true even in the US. The point is, Americans aren't fleeing in droves to go to Zimbabwe. No, in reality, we've got people from the Congo, Angola, flying to Brazil and Colombia and then trekking up to the US border trying to come here. How could this be, though? Our gender equality is so bad compared to these countries. I'll tell you. It's because people don't care. The reality is, $1 an hour ain't nothing. If I got 50% less than a woman in the US, I still wouldn't want to move out of the country because you still make more money here than anywhere else. You get the point. I'll see y'all at 4 p.m. YouTube.com/TimCast. It is impeachment day. I guess. I'll see you then.